Stop. Before you speak another word, before you share that secret weighing on your chest, ask yourself this: who is really listening? Because there are people in this world who will collect your pain like currency and spend it without mercy. This is the story of a man who learned that lesson one sentence too late. Gray smoke chokes the horizon. Factory chimneys pierce the sky like broken teeth. The city breathes pollution. A single bulb flickers. John, 40s, weathered hands, kind eyes, splashes cold water on his face. Each movement is mechanical, rehearsed by 8 years of identical mornings. His daughter, 7, sleeps in the corner, curled under a thin blanket. His wife moves silently in the kitchen, her eyes carrying questions she no longer asks. John wasn't a man who dreamed anymore. Dreams require energy, and energy was something the factory had slowly drained from his bones, shift by shift, year by year. John kisses his daughter's forehead. She doesn't stir. He pulls on his faded blue uniform, the fabric permanently stained with cement dust that no amount of washing can remove. A river of workers flows through the gates, faces blank, eyes forward. John is one drop in this human stream. For 8 years, John had been invisible, safe in his silence, loyal to a fault. He believed that if you worked hard enough, kept your head down, and asked for nothing, the world would leave you in peace. He was wrong. Machines roar. Cement bags, 50 pounds each, move along conveyor belts. John lifts, carries, stacks, repeat. His face twitches with pain he refuses to acknowledge. Mike, 30s, smooth talker, perpetual smile, approaches John, slapping his shoulder. Mike, shouting over machinery. "Another beautiful day in paradise, eh, Johnny?" John manages a weak smile, lifts another bag. His hands tremble. Mike, the kind of man who remembers your daughter's name but forgets your dignity, who offers friendship like a loan, always expecting interest. John and Mike walk home together. Orange light bleeds across the sky. John stops, leans against a wall, closes his eyes. "Mike, can I tell you something?" Mike, instantly alert, leaning in. "Course, brother. What's on your mind?" John hesitates. The words feel dangerous even before they leave his mouth. I'm just so tired. My back feels like it's breaking. Every bag feels heavier than the last. I was thinking maybe I could ask the supervisor for lighter duty, just for a day, maybe 2, just to say no more. I get it. Everyone hits the wall sometimes. You're human, Johnny." John exhales, relief flooding his features. For the first time in weeks, he felt heard. "Thanks, Mike. I knew you'd understand." In that moment, John felt lighter, unburdened. What he didn't know was that he'd just handed Mike the match that would burn his life down. Workers huddle around steaming cups. Mike leans close to a coworker, voice low but theatrical. "Between you and me, John's not doing well. Says he can't handle the work anymore. Sounded like he might be done." "Done? Like quitting?" Coworker replied. "Mike, I'm just saying what I heard. Man seemed pretty fed up." And just like that, truth became rumor. Exhaustion became betrayal. A cry for help became a threat. A. Workers whispering in corners. B. A floor manager jotting notes, face concerned. C. The shift supervisor making a phone call, voice urgent. D. Each retelling adding weight, drama, distortions. John's planning to quit. He's spreading negativity, trying to turn workers against management. Could be organizing something. Mr. Henderson, 60s, expensive suit, hard eyes, stands at his window overlooking the factory floor. "Sir, we have a situation with one of the workers, John Davies. Been with us 8 years, but recently, is he a problem? The reports suggest he's unhappy, possibly influencing others. Then he's a cancer. Cut it out before it spreads. Internal factory security office next morning. John enters, confused. 2 security guards flank him. A manager sits behind the desk. John Davies? Is something wrong? Did I miss a shift? We've received multiple reports of insubordination, negativity, and attempts to disrupt workplace morale. What? I never. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately. The words hit John like a physical blow. His mouth opens, closes, no sound comes out. I only asked for lighter work, 1 day, because my back. The decision is final. An envelope is pushed across the desk. Final pay, 8 years reduced to paper. No trial, no chance to defend himself. No one asked John what he actually said, because in the game of whispers, truth is the first casualty. Montage of John's descent. John walking home, envelope clutched in shaking hands. His wife's face crumbling as he explains. His daughter asking, "When are you going back to work, Daddy?" Job applications rejected. "We heard about your situation at Henderson's." Bills piling up, savings evaporating. John growing thinner, quieter, hollower. Internal John's apartment, early morning, weeks later. John packs a small bag, moves like a ghost, kisses his sleeping daughter's forehead, lingering, memorizing. He didn't leave in anger. He left because there was nothing left of him to stay. Because sometimes survival means becoming a stranger in a new city where your name still means nobody instead of problem. He slips out the door. His wife watches from the bedroom, silent tears falling. Internal factory security office weeks later. The manager reviews old security footage, sees John in his final days, working alone, speaking to no one, showing no signs of rebellion, just exhausted. He picks up the phone, calls Mike. "What exactly did John say to you, word for word?" Mike, on speakerphone, casual. "He said his back was hurting, asked if I thought he could request lighter duty for a day or 2. Silence. The manager's face darkens. "That's it?" "Yeah. Why?" The manager hangs up, buries his face in his hands. Internal Mr. Henderson's office later. Henderson stares at the report. For the first time, we see regret flicker across his face. Where is he now? Gone, left the city, no forwarding address. Henderson nods slowly. No apology will be issued, no effort will be made to find John, because powerful men don't chase ghosts of their mistakes. The factory still stands, the machines still roar, Mike still smiles, and somewhere in a city far away, a tired man works under a different name, carrying bags that hurt his back just the same. But now he carries something else too, a lesson written in scar tissue. Not everyone who listens cares. Not every smile is safe. And sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is tell the truth to the wrong person. An empty chair at a factory workstation, John's old spot. No one sits there. A small memorial to invisible loyalty. Before you share your pain, before you unburden your heart, ask yourself, who is really listening? Because the weight of your words, once released, can crush you. Think about your own life. Who have you trusted with your struggles? Are they guardians of your truth or collectors of ammunition? Your silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the armor that keeps you alive. Choose your confidants like your life depends on it, because it does.